Harry and Stephen were still fine. They finally had some understanding of the supercar that was speeding on the track. Although they were also shocked, they still stood there and carefully looked at the various data changes on the control panel. However, the others were not so calm, especially Walter was about to kneel down. He had seen automated cars before, and he had seen cars driving at a speed of 300 miles per hour on the track. However, when the two were combined, the speed of the car was maintained at 300 miles per hour without changing. It drifted all over the A+ difficulty track, and it even started to drive on its own. This was too scary. If he hadn't seen with his own eyes that the supercar was empty, Walter would definitely have thought that there was a top-class racer driving it. Amazing! This is amazing! Walter couldn't help but praise. If this was a race, then this car would definitely be the champion, and no one would be able to catch up to it. But what shocked him was that this wasn't the end. To him, a speed of 300 miles per hour was already as fast as flying. Who knew that Harry's next sentence would cause all the hairs on his body to stand on end? Increase speed to 400 miles per hour. Yes, increase speed. 300 miles per hour had already turned this Wayland 4K into a series of phantoms. After increasing its speed again, what kind of feeling would it give when it traveled 400 miles per hour? That was when the shadow was gone. Everyone's eyes could no longer keep up with the speeding car. They could only see the bright headlights of the car pulling out a straight and curved line. At this moment, if the Wayland 4K was given wings, it would definitely be able to fly. Even if it did not have wings, with this kind of speed, the grip of the entire car would definitely be able to float due to its extremely high speed. Fortunately, this car was worth $13 million and had an excellent air-powered design. In a super high-speed situation, not only did the suspension of the entire car automatically decrease, but it also reduced the center of gravity of the entire car to the ground. The tail of the car also automatically opened up, controlling the airflow to press down on the entire car so that it wouldn't lose friction with the ground due to the drifting. What is this? Can someone tell me what exactly this is? Walter was about to go crazy. The scene in front of him had already broken his common sense. At first, he thought that Harry was here to test a supercar, but later he thought it was to test a new type of automated driving system. But now, he felt he had seen God. This was not something a human could do. Whose car could run 400 miles per hour when it was unmanned, and how could it drift? Harry, do you see it? Sure enough, X can do it. Stephen was also very excited. The artificial intelligence that he personally created was able to produce such a shocking result. Of course, Stephen was the happiest. Harry nodded his head in admiration. It's perfect. It was perfect. This was the most suitable objective that Harry could think of. Before the test, Harry had already mentally prepared himself for the accident that would lead to the destruction of the supercar. But now it seemed like there was no need for that. The test had gone too smoothly. It didn't seem like it was the first time. It was more like a complete product that had been modified through various modifications. Of course, this was also due to the perfect performance of the Wayland 4K sports car, which allowed X, the artificial intelligence that had appeared for the first time, to display its full potential. After finishing a lap, X parked the car in front of everyone. There was no problem with the condition of the car. After all, it was a supercar. But the four tires of the car were all smoking due to the friction caused by the drifting. If not for the newest fireproof tires, the car would have been on fire due to the high-speed friction. Just like that, the four tires were all scrapped after they finished running. The originally thick tires were now very thin and could no longer run a second round. Mr. Parker, do you still want to test it again? I have a model of the tires that can be used. Walter walked forward and asked with respect. This showed the advantages of testing in a professional arena. This was because testing required the consumption of the tire and there might be malfunctions that needed maintenance. And all of these could be provided in Walter's racing field, especially tires. Ordinary household cars might not even need to change their tires for a few years. However, racing was different. The high-speed driving would cause serious damage to the tires even though Harry's supercar was not a professional racing car. However, the speed at which it was running was even more terrifying than a professional racing car. Okay, then I'll have to trouble you. I'll settle the cost after the test. Harry nodded. Walter waved his hand quickly. No, it's just a few tires. It is not a fee. Mr. Parker came here to test the car. He thinks highly of me, not to mention that I saw such an incredible car. Harry laughed and did not continue to be polite with him. Walter had a professional motorcade and maintenance technical staff, but Harry did not ask him to call them over in the middle of the night. It was just changing a few tires. The few of them who were present quickly changed their tires. As for the test, after running one round, he would leave it to X to complete. This supercar had its own comprehensive electronic self-examination system. Now that it was connected to X, any minute abnormalities would be detected by it. The new tire was changed. Walter stood up and clapped his hands. He asked doubtfully, "Mr. Parker, this car just ran perfectly. What else do you want to test?" Harry smiled. "The speed just now was only 400 miles. It's still far from the limit." "Oh, only 400 miles?" Walter was dumbfounded. He knew what Harry was going to do next. He was going to test the speed of this Wayland 4K at 486 miles per hour. Looking at this unusual car in front of him, Walter felt conflicted. Firstly, he was afraid that there would be a problem with the highest speed, which would cause this almost perfect industrial art car to become a waste. But at the same time, he also wanted to see if this car, together with the artificial intelligence beyond recognition, could run at this unprecedented speed. In the straight line race, there had already been a special race car with a rocket engine running at a speed of 600 to 700 miles per hour. However, the situation in front of him was completely different. On the complicated track that was man-made, the speed of 400 miles per hour was already shocking. Now, Harry wanted to run at an even higher speed? Walter could not imagine what kind of earthquake it would cause if the public knew about it. Ordinary people might not be able to experience much of the shock, but, so powerful, he could not help but sigh. However, for the racing community, this was definitely a huge earthquake. What was even more shocking was that the big companies that were researching and developing autopiloting were now involved. Harry's current autopilot supercar was compared to those automated vehicles in the Research and Development Center. It was like a baby who had yet to learn how to walk compared to the fastest runner in the world. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. "Mr. Parker, I saw this car run a little bit under 400 miles per hour speed just now. It would be a pity if the car were to be destroyed if you increase the speed." Walter thought about it and still raised his concern. Harry said without care, "It's fine, it's just a car. If it's destroyed, we can change to another one." "But the artificial intelligence in the car." "There's a backup," Harry smiled. In fact, Harry did not care at all. Super running was secondary. The main thing was that X's program was installed in the car. If there were any collisions, even if there were backup copies, the data of this test might be lost. Therefore, Harry and Stephen made the data box that X was in very solid. It was almost comparable to the black box on the plane. Even if the entire car was destroyed, X's main body would not suffer much loss. After everything was ready, under Harry's command, X started the engine again and ran onto the track. This time, unlike last time, Harry didn't let X slowly accelerate. Instead, he instantly accelerated the moment he got on the track. After a loud bang, the powerful engine drove the entire car at high speed, as if it had turned into a ray of light. It only took slightly more than a second to go from X to 100 miles per hour, and to go from 486 miles per hour, it didn't even take more than 10 seconds. On the arena, Harry and the others could no longer see the Wayland 4K's figure. They could only see a beautiful trail drawn by the red taillight. There was also a meter-long flame that appeared from the exhaust vent. Walter's worry was right. With such a high speed, the entire car almost lost control of the track. This was not something a human could achieve. If someone were to drive at this time, there would be only one outcome. The car would be destroyed and the person would die. However, X's performance was still flawless. Under the precise control of the artificial intelligence, the car that was a half out of control quickly returned to its original state, and it barely floated past one bend after another. Although under the physics theorem, such a speed could not be crossed. The strong inertia would definitely send the entire car flying. However, under X's precise calculations, it was possible to do things that couldn't be done by human hands. Even the law of physics was within the range of its calculations. Using the inertia and the performance of the supercar, it constantly controlled the output of the accelerator, causing the supercar to run at an unbelievable speed. The overall average speed is around 450 miles. The difficulty of such a road is already the limit. Stephen looked at the data on the panel and said, the highest speed could no longer be maintained. It could only be run at a straight line. Therefore, this test could come to an end. The only thing left was to drive on the densely packed road and see X's ability to avoid vehicles. However, after passing the test, Harry and the others believed that X would have no problem driving on normal roads. After all, with such a precise reaction speed, it would not be a problem to avoid traffic and pedestrians if they drove on roads that were usually only a few dozen miles in speed. After running one lap, X controlled the supercar to stop in front of Harry once again. Before Harry could take a step forward, Walter had already rushed up in front of everyone. He did not care about the engine cover that was so hot that it was hot. He caressed the supercar like he was looking at a lover, muttering something under his breath. Harvey saw Harry's strange expression and explained with a smile. This Walter is a person who loves cars. As long as he sees a good car, he won't be able to pull his legs out. Mr. Parker, I'm really sorry. I'm really happy to see your car. Walter rubbed his head and said in embarrassment. It's okay, just watch, Mr. Parker said. Harry waved his hand and said. They were using other people's arenas now, and they were even providing gasoline and tires for free. They could not let others watch. Mr. Parker, can I go up and experience it? Walter saw that Harry didn't mind, so he suggested the idea that he had been holding into his heart for a long time. Such a powerful super run, if he did not sit and experience it himself, Walter felt that he would not be able to eat and sleep well for a period of time. Harry frowned. Yes, you can, but you have to control the speed of the car. We still don't know if it will be dangerous to be in there at a high speed. Walter patted his chest and said, No problem. I have driven in the F1 before. This is not a problem. Wait for me for a while. After saying that, he ran out excitedly. Not long after he came back, everyone saw Walter wearing a suit for professional racers and holding a helmet in his hand. Seeing his posture, Harry knew that he was going to experience speeding. Just as he was about to give up on this idea, Stephen stopped Harry. Let him try. With X's health monitoring system, there won't be any problems. Besides, sooner or later, someone will have to give it a try in the car, right? I'm worried about the danger of an accident. Walter walked over and said, Mr. Parker, don't worry. Even if there are accidents, it's still mine. Don't worry too much. I'm a professional racer after all. I have experience dealing with all kinds of unexpected situations. Seeing his determination, Harry could not stop him. Besides, if someone tried the car personally, there was nothing more suitable than a racer like Walter. Racing was an industry that burned money. Walter, as a sir, could afford it. Not only did he become a racer himself, but he also drove such a large racing field. He changed the tires and refilled the gas. He waited until X checked the condition of the car and found that there were no problems. Walter put on his helmet and sat in the car impatiently preparing to set off. Mr. Parker, let's hurry up and experience it. Walter contacted Harry through the headset. This time he did not want to drive his own car. Instead, he wanted to sit in the car and experience the speed of an unmanned vehicle. Okay, let's accelerate in a straight line. Harry nodded and ordered X. The starting point of the track was a straight path that was more than 10 miles long. After Harry gave the order, the wheel and 4K disappeared from his sight. Walter, who was in the car, was pressed on the back of his seat by the strong inertia. His vision turned black, and his chest was so tight that he could barely breathe. When the speed of the car finally stabilized at 200 miles per hour, Walter felt like he was drowning again, and his breathing became smoother. In just a few seconds, Harry and the others only felt the blink of an eye, but Walter felt like he was as fast as a year. How is it? Do you feel good? Harry asked through the communication device. Luckily, I can handle it. Walter let out a long breath and held the steering wheel tightly. Although he did not need to drive at this moment, the habit that he had developed over the years still made him act like he was driving. Next is the first bend. Do you have any problems with your current speed? No problem. Come on. Crossing the bend at 200 miles per hour was definitely a problem for the passengers in the car. It was a terrifying experience. Fortunately, Walter was a racer to begin with. He wasn't afraid of such a situation. The ear-piercing sound of the tires rubbing against the ground echoed far from the night. After passing through the first bend, Walter shouted excitedly through the communication device. This is too satisfying. Driving a car and drifting by itself was a completely different experience from simply riding by himself, not to mention that it was an unmanned vehicle. Mr. Parker, increase the speed again. Let's have something more exciting, Walter said. Okay, as long as you think it's okay. In the car, Walter could have talked to X directly, but because Stephen did not set up the subordinate relationship between Walter and X, therefore Walter could not directly order X. Instead, he contacted Harry and asked him to give another order to X. 200 miles was not a big deal to Walter. He asked Harry to increase the speed to 300 miles. At this speed, almost everyone in the car couldn't see the scene outside the car. Their field of vision was limited to a small area in front of them, and they could only see a blur in other places. Besides, it was late at night, even though the entire racetrack was illuminated by high-powered lights as if it was daytime. But under the illumination of the lights, it showed that the current speed was extraordinary. The lights that were originally 100 meters apart were now connected into a string of lights in Walter's eyes. This feels great! Harry was worried about Walter's condition, but when he heard Walter shouting and yelling, he knew that it would not be a problem. Mr. Parker, speed up! Speed up! Let me experience the feeling of flying! Walter shouted excitedly in the car. Harry looked at the body monitor and saw that everything was normal. He smiled. Okay, I'll let you fly. As he spoke, he increased the speed to 400 miles. This was a speed that all racers could not catch up to. When X raised his speed, Walter in the car stopped moving. In the communication device, Harry could only hear his heavy breathing. After turning a corner, the health monitor began to call the police. All the monitoring indicators turned red and dangerous. Harry quickly stopped it. In the end, X slowed down and slowly drove back. When everyone pulled Walter out from his seat, who was limp, out, without saying another word, this guy took off his helmet and stumbled to the side of the grass to throw up. Mr. Parker, this is amazing. I don't know, there was such a fast car without experiencing it for myself. Oh my God, let me vomit for a while more. Harry looked at him, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. An experienced racer had been run away and thrown up. If he really sat on it, he would probably lose his life. Walter's experience this time was also very meaningful. It meant that it was best for ordinary people to not let X drive faster than 200 miles per hour and bend over. Walter slowed down for a while and told Harry that when the speed was over 300 miles, he was not used to it. When the speed reached 400 miles, his body felt uncomfortable. The most important thing was that his eyes started to have black vision. This meant that he endured too much gravity and acceleration. If he continued to run, his life would definitely be in danger. Walter's professional opinion suggested that if the ordinary people did not have protective equipment, it was best to maintain their speed within 200 miles. If one were to drift at this speed, they would really be able to turn a person's brain into mush. Looking at the wheel in 4K in front of him, Walter's eyes were filled with envy. It was the world's top sports car, plus unimaginable artificial intelligence. The power of the combination of the two was simply terrifying to the extreme. In this car, there was no racing driver in the world who was a match for him. They installed rocket engines, and the flaming car behind them was also called Cars. Therefore, Walter came to the conclusion that if this car could participate in the racing competition, the champion trophy would be able to win without any mercy. Mr. Parker, do you not plan to promote your artificial intelligence to the market? Walter asked. I haven't thought about that. Why, do you have an idea? Harry said with a smile. Yes, a little. Do you want to use it in racing competitions? Harvey asked. No. How could you use this in a professional race? This is obviously cheating. Walter quickly shook his head. He still had a basic bottom line. Racing was still a competition between the contestants. The competition was about who had better skills and whose car had better performance. However, if X played in this competition, it was unfair to the other contestants. This was not a competition. This was a massacre. I think this artificial intelligence can be used in too many areas. I will definitely step into the Intelligence Society in the future. Now, I've personally witnessed the starting point of this new change, Walter said with a sigh. Of course, Harry also knew what the artificial intelligence that Stephen developed based on his own mysterious server represented. However, it was still a little early to say whether it would be pushed to the market or not. After all, X's appearance was too sudden. Before Harry could mentally prepare himself, He suddenly had an artificial intelligence that could overturn the world. As for how to use X, Harry still needed to think about it carefully. If he pushed it to the market now, the result would definitely not be good. Basically, all the companies that developed artificial intelligence would be affected. After saying goodbye to Walter, on the way back, Stephen and Harry took a super run together. "Harry, do you want to register the patent as soon as possible?" Stephen thought for a while and asked. "The patent must be registered, but there is no rush for now. We need to investigate the market situation first," Harry replied. "Okay, I will listen to you. Anyway, you're the boss." There were interest groups in every industry, and there were even more interest groups related to artificial intelligence. If the subversive products were to be bought into this industry, it would definitely cause the vested interest to rebound. Harry did not want to make enemies for no reason, so he said that he had to take it slow and wait until after doing an investigation. This wasn't because Harry was too careful, but because he needed to be so careful. Harry wouldn't care about one or two enemies, but if a group of powerful people wanted to deal with him, then he wouldn't do anything. All he had to do was spread all day thinking about how to solve this problem. There was an example of this. There was once a country with the largest solar panel company in the world. Not only was it purely producing, but it was also one of the world's top research and development companies. All sorts of products were changing very quickly. It wouldn't be long before technology would be more and more mature, and humanity would enter the era of pure green energy. However, because of this, the company offended all the energy giants in the world. These giants, who relied on traditional fossil energy, possessed unimaginable wealth and influence. This company, which produced and developed solar panels, was too advanced, which caused the giants of traditional energy to be wary. Once the new energy source technology matured, the first ones to be threatened would be the fossil energy giants. Thus, under the suppression of their joint efforts, this company that represented the future dawn walked towards loneliness. From the beginning to glory to bankruptcy, and it only took a few years. This company did not have any background and strength, but there were too many people who were hostile to him. They were even more powerful. Under all kinds of suppression in the open and the dark, it was still difficult to handle alone. The reason why Harry knew it so well was that this was because the Parker family was also one of them. As a traditional energy giant, of course, no one knew that the new energy represented the future, but the benefits of the existing fossil energy were too great. It was so great that no one would be able to let go of it. Only when the resources were exhausted would they start preparing for the new energy plan. Therefore, sometimes the progress of the era was bloody, and some things that could overturn the era, if they appeared too early, there would be no good ending. Stephen did not understand these questions. He was just a simple technical geek, but Harry understood. Now that he thought about it, the server that he had bought had an even more powerful artificial intelligence. Perhaps it was because he offended some vested interest groups that the company that owned this server mysteriously disappeared. And, under all sorts of coincidences, the server finally fell into Harry's hands. And because of this, a simplified version of artificial intelligence was developed. However, even the simplified version was already world-shaking. Only then did Harry feel that it was best to keep a low profile for a while. If he was in a hurry to announce to the world that he had created an awesome artificial intelligence, that wouldn't be the best. At that time, he wouldn't know what kind of enemies he would attract. After returning to the villa, Harry parked the car in the garage. After closing the door, Harry saw Harvey waiting for him outside. "Why haven't you gone back to rest? Is something the matter?" Harry asked. Harvey nodded. "Mr. Parker, do you have a plan to meet the artificial intelligence?" "Not yet. I don't want it to be commercialized so quickly." Harry shook his head. Harvey let out a sigh of relief. That's good." Harry patted him on the shoulder. "I know what you're worried about. Don't worry. I'm not a reckless person." Harvey had the same thought as Harry. He was afraid that the appearance of this would make too many people jealous and attract unnecessary enemies. The next day, Harry did not get up early. After all, he had been busy with the trial car last night. He had to make up for the lack of rest. After washing up, he went to the living room of the villa and found that Mr. Cross was already waiting there. "Ah, you're back. Is the rental of the boat going well?" Harry called Mr. Cross to sit down and talk. "Sir, the matter is going smoothly. The Calico family has given us the most favorable price, and the terms are basically based on the needs of our side. This is the lease agreement. The Calico family has already signed it in advance, and it will take effect once you sign it." Harry took the contract and roughly looked at it. He said in surprise, "The ship's displacement is actually 60,000 tons. Yes, the new mud skipper from the Calico family is a large model." "I didn't expect it to rent a such large one. This price is a bit cheap." Harry looked at the rental price on the contract and smiled. The price of $800,000 per day was considered a very favorable price. Moreover, the ship provided by the Calico family was of a large tonnage. It could not be compared to their ship. 40,000 square meters of turbine per hour is a huge support for your plan to fill the ocean and build land. With this speed, the development period of Moon Island will be shortened," Mr. Cross said with a smile. According to Harry's previous plan, it was already very good to be able to rent a 20,000-ton mud boat. After all, this kind of special engineering ship was rarely seen in the world. Even if many countries were to fill in the sea and build land, they would still be artificially built. Building an artificial island would be calculated according to several years. Of course, Harry could not drag it out for so long. Moon Island was bought to make money from the development. The earlier they completed it, the earlier they would start making money. It would be a loss if they delayed every minute. Now, he didn't expect the Calico family to give him a surprise. A 60,000-ton ship's workload and efficiency were equivalent to 3 ships. All of a sudden, the development time of his plan was shortened by 2/3. Harry wanted to thank Porter later. What he had done this time was too meaningful. Not only did he rent the best boat to him, but the price was also very cheap. This favor was a bit too big. As he thought about these things, he looked up and saw Mr. Cross. Harry suddenly remembered that he had left someone behind. "By the way, where's Randy? Didn't you guys come back together?" When he asked about Randy, Harry saw that Mr. Cross could not hold back the smile on his face. Harry also smiled inexplicably. What? Did something interesting happen to him when he was pursuing the young lady of the Calico family? Upon hearing Harry's question, Mr. Cross nodded his head in admiration and said, "As expected, he is still the sir. You can even guess this." "I knew it. This kid must have something to do, even if he has nothing to do." Harry shook his head and smiled bitterly. With Mr. Cross's help, he told Harry about what had happened in the past 2 days. Ever since that blind date, Randy had fallen in love with Millie at first sight. After Harry and the others left, Randy had been staying in the Calico family. Porter had also intended to matchmake his daughter, and Randy had tacitly agreed to the situation. However, Millie was a little unhappy in her heart. Although she didn't have any ill feelings towards Randy, every time she saw him, this fellow would be so submissive that he wouldn't even be able to fart. Such a cowardly person made Millie, who had always been in a rush, feel a little annoyed. Furthermore, he was still staying at her house and not leaving. Thus, she felt a little unhappy in her heart. This was not because she was against Randy, but because her father was in a hurry to find a partner for her. However, since Randy was a guest, she could not be rude and drive him away. Thus, he could only helplessly acquiesce. Originally, Randy was quite happy. He was not a shy person, but he could not let go of Millie. He wanted to get familiar with her and slowly catch up with her in the future. Who knew that he would not be happy for long? Randy met a love rival. Yes, he had met a love rival. Although Millie had a lively personality like a manly woman, she still had suitors. A sir from a big family in the area had been pursuing Millie, but unfortunately, he had not achieved anything. However, this person had an advantage over Randy. He also liked to play with cars and shared a common hobby with Millie. The second day after Harry returned to Florida, Randy's love rival went to the Calico family. He was abroad at first, but when he heard that Porter was going to organize a blind date for his daughter, he rushed back in a hurry. Unfortunately, he came a little late. However, what made him happy was that the blind date did not seem to have succeeded. Porter's standards were too high. Ordinary small families would not interest him. His family's strength was not bad, but it was also because he liked racing that Porter did not like him. So he was not very interested in the marriage between these two families. Most importantly, this person was actually one-sided. Millie only treated him as her brother and did not have any intentions of getting married. "Oh, there are actually people who like Millie's type, like Randy. Who is this person?" Harry asked with a smile. Harry felt that these two people had a unique taste. It was not that Millie was not beautiful enough, but she was too gender neutral and did not look like a girl at all. It was similar to the fashionable young men and women who were neither male nor female. Harry was already very surprised that Randy could like this type, but he didn't expect that there would be people who had such hobbies as well. Mr. Cross said, "It's Dan, the heir of Hill family. This Hill family is in charge of real estate, and their strength isn't small either. It's just that their status is slightly lower than the Calico family." Now Randy has met his match. Harry felt a little sympathetic towards Randy's encounter. He was already unable to show his imposing manner in front of Millie, but now there was another person who was also a match for her. Although Porter still thought highly of Randy, he couldn't resist the fact that Millie and Dan shared a common interest. Since their hobbies were the same, there was a common language between the two of them. In addition, they had known each other for a long time. This was truly a formidable opponent. Mr. Cross shook his head and smiled as he continued talking about what he had seen and heard in these past 2 days. After Porter had signed the lease contract that Mr. Cross had signed on behalf of Harry, he had other matters to attend to and left. As for the man called Dan, after learning that Porter had left, he went straight to the Calico family manor to find Millie. He probably wanted to ask about the matter of marriage. The fact that his beloved father had suddenly created such a scene made Dan feel very uncertain. How could he be at ease if he did not go and find out what Millie's intentions were? One must know that during those 2 days that Porter held the marriage meeting for his daughter, Dan could not eat or sleep well. He rushed back with a burning heart. Because Porter didn't like him very much, he didn't dare to go and find him directly. After waiting for Porter to leave with great difficulty, he finally arrived at the manor of the Calico family like a thief. After asking around with the servants who were familiar with this place, Dan was both happy and worried. He heard a piece of good news and a piece of bad news. The good news was that Millie's blind date wasn't very good, and she didn't have any good intentions. The bad news was that after the blind date meeting was over, a man actually stayed behind. He had been living in the Calico family's manor for the past 2 days. This made Dan very unhappy. A man staying in the house of a woman he liked for no reason. Wasn't this slapping his face? He heard from the servants that this guy called Randy seemed to be very satisfied with him and wanted to match-make him and Millie together. The sense of crisis in Dan's heart became even more serious. Coincidentally, when he came here, he did not see Millie. When he found out about these things, he first met Randy. Thus, when enemies saw each other, they would be jealous of each other. "Hey, you're Randy, right?" Dan shouted angrily. Who are you?" Randy looked confused. Unfamiliar man greeted him early in the morning, and his face was full of anger. He really didn't know what was going on. He originally wanted to walk around in the garden outside to relieve his gloomy mood. He really did not know how to chase after Millie these 2 days. If it was an ordinary girl, he would have plenty of moves, but whenever he faced Millie, he would immediately lose confidence and would not be able to use any moves. "Who am I? I'm Dan, Millie's childhood friend. Tell me honestly, why are you staying in the Calico family and not leaving?" When he heard that they were childhood friends, the corners of Randy's eyes twitched. Only now did he realize that he must have met a love rival. Furthermore, the love rival's background was probably not small either. To be able to be childhood sweethearts with Millie, this daughter of a rich family, he must not be an ordinary family. "Whether I live here or not is none of your business. You're not a member of the Calico family. What can you do about it?" Randy retorted without hesitation. Since they were rivals in love, there was no need to be polite with this person. "You're very arrogant. If you don't say it, I also know that you want to pursue Millie, right?" Dan said with a cold smile. "Yeah, so what?" Dan continued to sneer. "Good, you dare to admit that you're a man. Since you have the courage to pursue Millie, do you have the courage to compete with me?" "Compete? Compete with what?" Randy asked with a frown. In the manner of the Calico family, 2 men were staring at each other with sharp eyes. It seemed that they could see the sparks of electricity in each other's eyes. Such a rare scene attracted a large number of servants, even though there were a lot of rules in the big families. But now that the leader wasn't there, and Big Miss had gone out as well, Dan and Randy were both outsiders in the end. Now that there was a good show to watch, these servants who were busy all day long naturally came to watch the show. Hey, when did our young lady become so popular? Why are there still people who are jealous of her? That's right, that man didn't stay away from Miss. Now, there are actually two suitors who are about to fight for her. It's really a rare scene. I thought that only Mr. Hill would like our Miss in this life. I didn't expect another one to appear. Who do you think is the most interesting among the two of them? Yes, Mr. Hill grew up with the young lady. The relationship between the two of them as childhood sweethearts is not a joke. It's hard to say. Although Mr. Banner just came here, his status is not bad. Furthermore, she seems to like Mr. Banner. A group of servants whispered to each other, discussing their opinions. The two people who were surrounded were still confronting each other. The competition is a competition. Let's see who the most powerful person is. The one who wins has the right to have Millie. The one who loses has to get lost. Dan said. Huh, childish. Randy sneered and prepared to leave. He was not afraid, but he knew very well that this was Dan's territory. The resources he had would definitely be able to suppress him, so it was unwise to look down on Dan. However, Randy wasn't afraid of Dan. Although he wasn't a match for Dan in this place, if Dan went to Florida, Randy would still be able to pin him down. Childish, I'm afraid you don't have the courage to use this as an excuse, right? Dan tried to goad him on. Unfortunately, Randy did not fall for it. It's useless even if you provoke me. Millie is not a bargaining chip. I'm afraid. Do you really think that Millie will like you, a cowardly rat like you? Huh, trash. Dan continued to use his words to provoke him. It had to be said that this sentence was effective. Randy was prepared to ignore all of Dan's words. However, when he saw the strange looks and whispers of the surrounding servants, Randy felt a little uneasy. He thought to himself that if he really didn't face Dan's challenge, these servants would spread the news to Millie. Wouldn't that make his image become very bad? Considering these things, Randy had no choice but to face provocation. Tell me, how do you want to compete? Seeing Randy agree, Dan felt excited in his heart. He had finally fallen into his trap. He raised his voice and said, Millie's favorite thing is racing. How about you compete with me on her favorite thing? Sure, you decide the date and time, Randy said generously. He did not know how to race in the dark. Usually he did not drive when he went out. He was a professional driver. Although he had a driver's license for a long time, he didn't drive for a long time. He couldn't even drive a normal car, let alone race with other people. However, if he lost, he wouldn't lose. Since his opponent had proposed a challenge, if he admitted defeat, he wouldn't be able to raise his head again. Therefore, Randy agreed without hesitation. As for what he should do during the real competition, he felt that he could talk about it later. At most, he wouldn't lose face even if he risked his life. Since I suggested a race, for the sake of fairness, you can decide the time and place. Dan pretended to be polite and said. He looked at Randy as if he was looking at a toy. He had full confidence in racing. Randy didn't look like a person who liked racing. This kind of guy, as long as he dared to compete with him, there were hundreds of ways to toy with him to death. Dan had all kinds of plans in his mind, but Randy was stunned for a moment. It was useless to let him choose at any time and place. After all, these were secondary. Only driving skills were the key to victory. Therefore, to Randy, this was simply a competition where he could not see victory. Putting aside the fact that he did not know how to play with cars, even if he knew how to play, it was still not as good as Dan's. This fellow had been playing since he was young. Up until now, there had been hundreds and thousands of matches. Why did Randy have to compare with him? All right, since it's decided by me, see you in Florida in 3 days. Randy pushed the time to 3 days later. He thought that it would take too long. Dan definitely wouldn't agree, so he set 3 days to give himself some time to think of a solution. As he had set the location to Florida because that was his territory, no matter what tricks Dan had, he would be able to control it. Heh, Florida, right? All right, I'll wait for you for 3 days. These 3 days will be your last 3 days. Enjoy it. Dan laughed and left the manor of the Calico family. Millie had gone out to play for a whole day. When she returned home, she still felt strange that she did not see Randy. This person had been pestering her all day long, just like a follower. The problem was that he didn't talk much and just looked at her with annoyance. Why was he gone now? Could it be that she knew that she didn't want to please him and go home? Millie was actually a little unaccustomed to not seeing Randy all of a sudden. "Miss, you're back." The servants bowed to Millie. "Yes, where is that person?" Millie asked. "Mr. Banner, he..." Then the servants explained in detail what happened when Millie was not at home today. After Millie heard it, she laughed. "Such a fun thing happened at my house, but I actually did not see it. What a pity." Then she shook her head and said, "What the hell is Dan doing? He used me as a bargaining chip? When I see him again, I will teach him a lesson." "Miss, that Mr. Banner?" "Take me to see him." "Yes." In the manner of the Calico family, Randy was pacing back and forth anxiously in his guest room. "What should we do? I don't know how to play flying cars. Let's not talk about it whether we can win or not. I might even lose my life. Oh." Someone knocked on the door. "Please come in." Randy thought it was a servant from the manor who came in to clean up. He wouldn't have thought it was Millie. Randy was caught off guard. "Millie, why did you come to my place?" Millie did not say much and asked straightforwardly. "I heard you and Dan agreed to race 3 days later." Initially, Randy had felt inexplicably nervous when he faced Millie. Now that Millie had run into his room, his hands and feet did not know where to be placed. You know?" Millie frowned and continued to ask. "Do you know how to drive well?" "No, not really." "Then why did you agree to let Dan compete with him in racing?" This is because..." Randy looked angry and could not say anything. He could not say that it was because he wanted to compete with Dan for her. That was why they competed like this. "No need to explain. I know why. I advise you to give up." Millie raised her hand and said, "Why?" "You don't even know how to drive a car and you still want to compete with Dan. Isn't this courting death? Besides, even if you have some skills, Dan is an experienced veteran. He has never lost in any kind of underground racing competitions." Randy's eyes gradually widened. He sighed in his heart that he had really fallen for the foreigner. This Dan's thoughts were too dirty. He actually set him up. He even said that it was fair. He was a racing expert. How could he be shameless enough to find a small fry like him to compete with him? Even so, Randy shook his head firmly. "No, this competition has already been decided. I can't withdraw." This matter concerned the dignity of a man. Randy would never run away from it. Furthermore, Millie had come to persuade him to give up, so he could not give up even more. He originally wanted Millie to look at him highly. What would happen if he gave up just like that? "You really don't want to give up? All right, then come with me." Millie snorted and turned around to leave. "Where are we going?" Randy asked as he chased after her. "You will know when you come." Millie brought Randy to the garage of the manor. Other than a few business cars used by Porter, the rest were all sports cars and modified cars. Randy stared at them with his eyes wide open. You brought me here? Don't tell me you want to give me a racing car." Randy's eyes lit up and asked. Millie said without hesitation, "You think too much." Then..." Randy rubbed his nose awkwardly. "Didn't you want to race with Dan? Then I'll show you how it feels to race now," Millie said and pushed Randy into the front passenger seat of the sports car she had chosen. She turned to the other side of the car and sat in the driver's seat. "Wear your seatbelt." Oh, okay." Randy quickly grabbed the seatbelt and fastened it. It had just been fixed. The red 700 dashed out like a bullet amidst the loud roar of the engine. The huge recoil pushed Randy to the back of the seat, making him feel suffocated. Millie was not able to use it in the restricted area of the manor and the road. She drove out of the manor, and the road outside was her own house. The area within 10 miles of this place was the Calico family's. Usually, cars from the outside would not be able to enter, so she did not have to worry about bumping into other people if she drove here. After they drove out of the manor, Millie, who was sitting in the driver's seat, seemed to have changed into a different person. Her temperament looked even more callous. "Are you ready? I'm going to start racing." Before Randy could reply, the whole car suddenly accelerated. The huge inertia pressed him on the back of the car again. The pressure of his chest made it hard for him to say a word. Before Randy could react, the red sports car had already reached the bend of the first mountain road before Millie could finish speaking. Looking at the cliff that was getting closer and closer to him, as well as the guardrails and warning signs of the edge of the cliff, Randy's heart began to beat rapidly. Millie did not show any signs of slowing down at all. Instead, she drove straight towards the guardrail, and on the other side of the guardrail was the cliff. "Oh, slow down, slow down, ah!" There was an ear-piercing sound of friction. The entire red sports car drifted along the edge of the fence under Millie's driving. In Randy's vision, he saw that the entire car had suddenly started to turn at an incredible speed the moment it was about to rush down the cliff. The entire car seemed to have turned sideways and made a sharp screeching sound as it drifted across the bend. From the front window of the car, he could see that the scenery outside had changed from the front to the back to the left and right. Randy, who had experienced drifting for the first time, cried out in disappointment. "Be quiet, let me keep my attention." Millie turned her head and scolded. Randy immediately shut his mouth and stopped talking. After that, it was time for the second curve to drift. Then there was the third, the fourth. After flying for more than 10 turns, Millie finally stopped the car at the foot of the mountain. To Randy, this wasn't a long journey. It was even more terrifying than hell. Before the car could stabilize, he opened the car door and bent down to throw up. Millie walked out of the sports car and leaned against the car door to light a cigarette. She took a breath and spat out a smoke ring elegantly. Then she said lazily, "You can't take it anymore with this little road. And tell me, how are you going to compete with Dan?" Randy wanted to say something, but his stomach was churning uncontrollably. All that was left was the sound of vomiting. "I just took you on this road to let you know the truth. Don't think that racing is a child's game. Dan's skills are not even as good as mine. What can you compare with him?" Millie looked at Randy, who had vomited all over the place and could only spit acid. She turned around and took out a few pieces of paper from the car and handed it to him. "Thank you." Randy knew that Millie was doing this for his own good, although it was a bit unpleasant to say. In his heart, he did not want to lose his life. However, Millie's mistake was that she did not understand Randy. Randy usually looked carefree, as if he did not care about anything, but in reality, once he identified something, he would definitely follow the dark path. The competition between him and Dan was also like this. In his heart, Millie would definitely catch up to him. However, now that a competitor had appeared and challenged him, he could only brace himself to fight. Even if it was a competition that he was not good at, he had to fight Dan to the end. Unfortunately, he originally wanted to show Millie his manliness, but this drift had directly broken his technique. Randy felt that he had really lost all face. How could he still maintain his image in front of Millie when he vomited like this? Millie also felt angry and funny. The person in front of her felt a little silly and cute. He clearly did not know how to drive, but he still agreed to compete with others. She knew why he did that in her heart, but because of this, she had a little good impression of Randy in her heart. "No, I will compete with him in this competition," Randy said firmly. Millie frowned and said, "You have thought it through? This is not a joke. I have already said that it might cost you your life. Especially a little wimp like you. It would be weird if you didn't flip the car." "Even if I die, I have to compete with Dan. Admitting defeat isn't my style." "All right, since you insist, then I have nothing else to say. Life and death are your own choices." Millie seemed to be a little angry. She did not care about Randy anymore, turned around and sat in the car to start the engine and left. "I will definitely not let Dan get what he wants. Sooner or later, you'll be my woman." Randy finally mustered up his courage and shouted at the car that was far away. Millie looked at Randy's crazy shouting in the rearview mirror and heard his declaration from the open window. She could not help but laugh. Idiot. Seeing Millie's car disappear into the distance, Randy turned around and left in the opposite direction. He didn't go back to the Calico family manor. Instead, he went back to Florida to prepare. Florida was his territory after all. There were plenty of ways to win in a home battle. "I won't compete with you in driving skills. There are plenty of tricks to use in Florida. Let's wait and see." After riding on Millie's drift and getting off the car, Randy finally knew what racing was. This was definitely a very difficult and technical task. He definitely could not learn in a short period of time. Since that was the case, there was no need for him to compete with Dan in terms of driving skills. Anyway, it wasn't a fair competition to begin with. A racing star competing with a person who couldn't even drive a car, wasn't this just messing around? If he used some underhanded tricks during the competition, he could still win against Dan. After coming up with an idea, Randy immediately returned to Florida. On the other side of Florida, after Mr. Cross had reported the situation to Harry, Harry had no idea how Randy was going to deal with this competitor. However, he was his brother after all, and he couldn't just watch helplessly as Randy was bullied. Just as he was about to call him and ask him where he was and call him over to think of a solution, Randy appeared. "Mr. Parker, my dear brother, help me." Harry looked up and saw Randy running and shouting. "What's wrong? Someone is chasing you?" Not really." "Then what are you shouting for?" Harry asked, even though he knew the answer. "Mr. Parker, you must help me think of a way this time." "You didn't even tell me what it was. How can I help you think of a way?" Harry held back his laughter and said, "It's like this." Randy awkwardly told him the whole story again. He looked at Mr. Cross and asked Harry, "Hey, Mr. Parker, didn't Mr. Cross tell you about me?" "He did." Randy was disappointed. "But let me say it again. Tomorrow is a competition. Time is of essence. You have to think of something for me as soon as possible." "It's simple. Can you just send someone to kill that Dan?" Randy jumped up in fright. "Please don't. That is too cruel. This way I won't have any chance in front of Millie." If he couldn't beat Dan, he would kill him. If he really did that, then his image in Millie's eyes would be completely destroyed, even though, in fact, Randy really wanted to do that in his heart. "Then there's no other way. Think of it yourself." Harry spread out his hands and said, "Don't, brother. You've always been the one with the most ideas. Give your brother an idea. Not only can he win beautifully, but he can also suppress Dan's arrogance. I won't dare to have any evil thoughts about Dan anymore." "You want to race with someone, right?" "Yes. Originally, I wanted to arrange the location of the competition in Florida. Even if I don't have the skills, I could still make Dan unable to run with some tricks during the competition." "That's right. Isn't it pretty good? Why are you looking for me?" "Listen to me. After I thought about it carefully, I didn't do it too openly. This competition is for Millie to watch. If I don't win by force, even if I win, I won't have any face." "Ah, I see." Harry nodded. "Mr. Parker, can you help me? I really don't know what to do. If I don't play tricks with my lousy skills, I can easily flip a car and die. For the sake of being brothers, give me a move." Harry shook his head. "No move. I can't do it. You're dead." "Brother!" Randy started to cry on the spot. Harvey walked in with a smile on his face. "Hey, what's wrong?" "Mr. Livingston, save me, my brother." Harvey should have already known about Randy. He shook his head with a suppressed smile, just like Harry. "Brother, it's not that I don't want to help you. It's just that you are courting death. We have no choice." "Heavens, am I really going to die?" Seeing that Randy was getting more and more ridiculous, Harry stood up and patted his shoulder. "All right, stop pretending. I'm not joking with you anymore. I'm here to show you something." Seeing Harry's expression, Randy knew that there was a door. He immediately jumped up in excitement. "What are we looking at?" "You will know when you come over," Harry said and brought Randy into the garage. The Wayland 4K parked inside immediately attracted Randy's attention. He pointed at the super runway in disbelief. "Wayland 4K? What the hell? Mr. Parker, when did you buy it?" "I just bought it a few days ago, but you're in a hurry. Didn't you want to win Dan fair and square? My car will be lent to you as a ride to compete with him. I guarantee you will win," Harry said with a smile. Randy immediately pulled his face down. "I thought it was something good, but it's still a car. I know this Wayland is the fastest car, but it's useless. It doesn't matter what kind of car I drive." Harry patted the car and said, "No problem. My car has been modified a little. I said I will guarantee your victory. I will make sure you won't be able to see the taillights of Dan's car." "Brother, let's not joke around, okay? Let's think of something else," Randy said, scratching his head. "I'm sorry. I don't have any other way. Either you admit defeat directly or you use this car to win the competition. There's no other way." Harry shrugged and said. Harvey looked at Randy's bitter face and said with a smile, "Forget it. I won't tease you anymore. Mr. Parker has added a powerful autopilot system to his car. It has already been tested. It won't be a problem for you to beat the racing expert." "What? Automatic driving?" Randy was stunned. Initially, when Randy heard that Harry had already prepared a countermeasure for him, he was very happy in his heart. He felt that it was a good thing that Harry was his good brother. Who knew that in the end, it would still be a car? What was unusual was that this car did not seem to need him to drive it, but was driven by itself. Randy pointed at the Wayland 4K in front of him and said with a blank face, "No, this is the method you guys talked about. Can you tell me what the hell is driving by autopilot?" Randy was not stupid. He knew that the so-called automatic driving system was not a mature design product yet. Not to mention racing against people, even if it was slow driving, there was a high chance that something would go wrong. Where did Harry and Harvey get the confidence to use this car to compete with Dan? Could it be that they were joking? Randy said with a bitter face, "My two brothers, can you stop teasing me? This is not a joke." Harry smiled and said, "I'm not joking with you. I promised you that you will win, so you will definitely win. Don't worry, it will not be a problem." "It would be weird if there are no problems. How can I be at ease? Tomorrow's competition will affect the sex happiness of my younger brother for the rest of my life. Don't joke with me anymore, okay?" Randy begged. Harvey shook his head and said, "Mr. Parker, why don't we let him experience it first?" Harry nodded. "Okay, since a pressure suit has been sent over, let's give him some confidence and experience the feeling of flying." Randy continued to be confused. He looked at the two of them and said, What feeling of flying? Why can't I understand what the two of you are saying?" "I don't understand. It's fine. You will understand everything later." Harry pulled Randy over and called a few of his subordinates over. A group of people started to pull his clothes. Randy was so scared that he almost peed himself. He kept struggling and shouting, "Hey, what are you doing? Mr. Parker, Mr. Livingston, let's talk properly. Don't take off my clothes, okay?" "It's all because of a woman. Why are you so embarrassed? Quickly, take off your clothes." Harry laughed loudly. No. Very soon, under Randy's despairing gaze, everyone stripped him naked and changed him into a protective suit. Looking at the special clothes on his body, Randy said in puzzlement, What is this for? It looks like the clothes worn by pilots." "That's right. That's why you said it's a pressure suit." Wait, no, why am I wearing this? Don't tell me you really want me to fly. I'm going to race with someone, not fly." "You're so long-winded. Go on." Harry listened to Randy ramble on and impatiently pushed him into the car. What exactly is he trying to do? Can you say it clearly? My heart is very uneasy." Harry did not care what Randy said. After putting on the safety belt for him, he immediately ordered, "X, start the engine. The route has been planned. Let him experience the feeling of flying." "Yes, sir." X's voice came from the control panel in Harry's hand. "No, what the hell is going on? Ah!" Randy did not finish his sentence. The engine in the Wayland 4K started up automatically, producing a loud explosive sound. Then the entire car sped up and rushed out of the garage at an extremely fast speed. "What the hell is this? Oh, why is it running so fast? Slow down. Randy, who was sitting in the car, was about to faint. How could he know what Harry's car was? It didn't need anyone to drive it, but it was running like it was flying. What was even more terrifying was that every time they ran into a bend, they never slowed down. With a swing of the front of the car and a swing of the seat, the entire car drifted over at an extremely fast speed. This feeling was even more stimulating than when Millie brought him along to drift. To be more precise, this automated car was moving at an extremely fast speed. The speed at which it drifted was simply not something that could be controlled by a human. Fast, precise, and perfectly merged together. Inside the car, Randy could feel the powerful gravitational acceleration feedback from various inertia. On Harry's panel, he could see the number of feedback immediately. At the highest point, it could reach 7 gigabytes. Of course, this was far from the limit of this car. However, this was Randy's first time sitting in it, so Harry took it easy. Fortunately, he was wearing a pressure suit. Otherwise, Randy would have gone through hypoxia shock a long time ago. However, even with all kinds of adequate protection, there was even a dedicated helmet and an oxygen mask. Randy, who was in the car, was also gradually unable to withstand this powerful stimulation. He was like noodles in a mixer, thrown around by inertia in the car. No, I can't take it anymore. Mr. Parker, I can't take it anymore. Hurry up and stop this car," Randy said while breathing heavily. Harry knew it was about time. Judging from the data on the panel, Randy's body was close to its limit. He ordered X to stop the drifting and drive slowly back to the garage. The speeding just now was on the road outside the villa park. There were almost no pedestrians or cars there at night. That was why Harry felt relieved to let Randy experience it. However, the experience this time added up to only 3 minutes. Randy had already reached his limit. After the supercar stopped in the garage, the car door opened automatically. Randy trembled as he unbuckled his seatbelt and climbed out of the car. That's right, he crawled out. Although it was embarrassing, he had no choice. The first impression this car gave him was too terrifying. He didn't want to stay here for even half a second. However, the experience just now had made his legs go weak. No matter how strict he was, he would be scared to the point of pissing his pants. He could only crawl out. After climbing out of the car with both hands and feet, he took off his helmet with great difficulty. Randy took a deep breath. Before he could say anything, he vomited again. The entire garage was filled with an unpleasant smell. Harry pinched his nose and called for someone to clean it up. Only then did he come to Randy's side. At this time, Randy was lying on the ground with his head facing upwards. His eyes were lifeless, as if he was a shell without a soul. Harry looked at Harvey with amusement, then patted his shoulder and said, "Hey, my soul has returned." "Mr. Parker, you have made me doubt my life. What the hell is this car?" Randy said weakly. "Didn't I say that it equipped with an automatic driving system? How was it? It's very powerful, isn't it?" Randy shook his head with difficulty. "I don't study much. Don't lie to me. This is called automated driving. How did you do it? You don't need to worry about how I did it. Anyway, I can help you win tomorrow's competition. How was it? Are you surprised?" In the face of Harry's question, Randy felt like crying. This wasn't just a pleasant surprise. It was a great shock, all right? How can there be an automatic car that could drift? No, it shouldn't be called drifting. From what he felt just now, the entire car was running like it was flying. "Brother, I know you're doing this for my own good, but I really don't have the fortune to enjoy this car. Just running for a few minutes already took away half of my life. If you let me do this car and race with someone tomorrow, even if the car didn't flip over my life, I would still be dead." Randy felt that Harry had given him a divine weapon, but the problem was that this divine weapon was a double-edged sword. It had already cost 10,000 to kill 1,000 enemies. How could he play with it? Harry shook his head. "It's fine. It was you who was unprepared just now, and you did run a little too fiercely. It was reasonable that you can't take it." "It's not that I can't take it. It's just that I can't take it at all. It's too difficult for me," Randy said in despair. "Listen to me first. I was controlling the artificial intelligence in the car when I was running. When the competition starts tomorrow, I will give you the control. When the time comes, you don't have to run so hard. You just need to run as fast as you can," Harry explained. "We can win like this?" Randy was a little suspicious. His physical fitness was incomparable to those who had been racing all year round. If he ran within the range of his endurance, how could he beat Dan? "So, isn't this the pressure suit that has been prepared for a long time? With this special suit that can resist inertia, your endurance is basically on the same level as Dan's," Harry said. Randy closed his eyes and thought for a while. Then he suddenly opened his eyes again. "Listening to you say this is really interesting." "That's for sure. I told you that you would definitely win," Harry said with a smile. With the help of the Lotus-resistant suit, Randy's body could withstand some inertia that was not too strong. Besides, Dan was not a Superman. In general, as long as X can run a little faster than him, it would not be a problem for him to win the competition. The most important thing was that Randy could also bear it. Otherwise, when he won the competition, the winner would faint in the car. This was a bit unreasonable. Who knew how X had run just now? If that were the case, it would make people suspicious. Therefore, when he won the competition, it was also very important that Randy could walk out of the car and accept the fruits of his victory. "Mr. Parker is really awesome. I told you that you definitely have a way. I never thought that you would create such a great weapon for me. This time, I'm going to drive Dan to the point where he suspects his life." Randy, who had connected with the car, stood up excitedly. He kept circling around the car, and from time to time, he even touched the outer shell of the car that had yet to completely cool down. "Don't look at the car for now. There is still something important to do. Tomorrow, When and where are you going to race with someone? I have to enter the road condition into X's system in advance, Harry said. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. The location is on that winding mountain road. First, go down from the top of the mountain, then run to the foot of the mountain before turning around and going up. In the end, whoever reaches the starting point of the mountain first wins. As Harry listened, he typed in the mountain on the computer and searched the map terrain. Then he inputs all kinds of data into X's terminal. Steven didn't need to do this anymore. Harry could do it himself. Although he didn't need to prepare the map in advance for X, he could still scan it while running. However, if he prepared the map data in advance, he would be able to prepare more. You chose a location? Harry asked. Yes, at first I wanted to choose the regular racing venue, but Dan said he was a mountain runner. If we want to compete, we can only choose the mountain trail competition. I came here to look for him, but there is no traffic outside to disturb us at night, Randy replied. I think you were tricked by him, Harry said with a sneer. Why do you say that? Think about it. This Dan has been driving for more than a year and a half. He has been racing all day long. He must have been to Florida before. Harvey also understood. Yes, he must be familiar with the situation here. He knows that if we exclude the competition grounds, we can only choose the mountain to compete with him. Harry nodded. The familiarity of the track will affect the outcome of the race to a large extent. It seems that you have chosen the location of the race, but in fact, is the result of Dan's careful calculation. Randy was a little confused. So what? This guy is very cautious. He knows that you can't race, but he still treats you as his real opponent. It could be seen that he is very serious about this race, Harvey said. In his heart, he was also impressed by Dan, who he had never met before. To be able to scheme so meticulously and not underestimate an opponent who was so weak that it could be ignored, this man was really not simple. If it wasn't for the fact that Randy happened to encounter Harry, who developed the artificial intelligence called X, Dan would have had a 100% chance of winning, not giving Randy any chance to turn the tables. Randy also understood what was going on. He sneered and said, so what if it's like this? He schemed and schemed, but in the end, won't he still lose to me? He was full of confidence now. There was nothing he could do about it. Harry's supercar had left a deep impression on him. It had almost turned into a psychological shadow. Yeah, he was really meticulous in his calculations. Unfortunately, he met X. This is not something that can be defeated by human strength. Harry nodded. It was already a long time ago for people to win. In the face of technology that had broken through the era, everything had to kneel down. The suppression of technology was almost unresolvable. It was just like a large army's mechanical warfare that had entered the era of information. Under the suppression of technology, the latter could only face the consequences of massacring. Tomorrow's competition, I'll let you teach Dan a good lesson. You must make him doubt his life if he loses. He won't compete with you for Millie anymore. Harry patted Randy's shoulder and said, Yes, I will fight with him all my might now. Even if I can't bear it, I have to endure it. Dan ran so fast that he couldn't even see the taillights of the car. Randy waved his arm full of confidence. As long as you're confident, we are waiting for your wedding, Harvey said with a laugh. Randy became shy and said, the date of the wedding has not been set yet. I cannot guarantee that I will be able to catch up to Millie. Don't worry, take your time. Without competitors, you'll be able to develop